Hey folks, wanted to do a YouTube video update, talk about a few things, tell you a little about what I'm up to, and kind of some big picture stuff. This video will have some gravy in it, but it won't be so much that it would get this video censored. So because I can kind of talk around things, and I think you guys can get what I'm talking about. But yeah, I wanted to just talk a little bit about, I want to go talk about the trucker thing again, because I think there's some really exciting opportunities in that right now, and I'm feeling amazing. We've had such a, we've been up here for over a year now. I'm really getting used to being up here. I love the exercise. I'm in the best physical shape I've been in years, and I'm really excited about a lot of things that are happening on our homestead, how things are developing here, but also the macro stuff on what's going on around the world. And so I wanted to talk about that. And yeah, just start here at the homestead. I mean, now at this point, I'm on the right side of the winter solstice, so the days are getting longer, though it's really cold today. I think right now it's about minus 10 Celsius out here. But the winter's really settled, and we are... our off-grid system is awesome. I'm not even having to run diesel anymore for the generator. Days are long enough that even on a cloudy day like this today, I'll still produce about 30 kilowatt hours. So the most I would use is maybe 20, and that's when I'm running my electric hot water tank, which I use as a dump for excess electricity. But I can flip it off and just go back on gas, and then use way less electricity. So we're producing more than we need right now, even with the weather like this. But on a sunny day, like it was sunny for about 75% of the day yesterday, we got 70 kilowatt hours. So that's pretty amazing for winter, because that means by spring, we'll be producing double that, which means I won't even be able to use it all. At least, most likely not, unless I'm charging the car or something. But yeah, I've been busy working in here. I have an office in here now. I did that live stream from there, and that last live stream from there. And yeah, there's still quite a bit of interior work to do in there, especially in the greenhouse. But we're chipping along at it. Things slow down in the winter, and which is kind of good. But yeah, regarding that live stream that I've deleted, and if you don't know where it is and you want to see it, it's up on my BitChute channel. So you can go to BitChute and check it out. It's there. And I've taken quite a bit of a break from live streams. I hope the snow isn't too loud in this video, but I've taken a break from live streams. I used to do them every week, as you know. You would know if you follow my stuff. But I taken a break, and it was much needed, actually. It's been good to have less time doing that kind of thing. And that live stream was the most viewed live stream I ever did. Maybe that was for a few reasons. Maybe it was partly because I do less of them now, and so people were excited to see me do one. Maybe it was the fact that Owen Benjamin came in. I don't know, but we had up to 2,000. I think we had 2,000 people watching at the height, and the video itself got 27,000 views before I deleted it. So if you're not familiar with why I do that, I've done that for a long time just to avoid censorship, because I don't want to compromise my YouTube channel. And so we take them down. And they're all archived at fromthefield.tv. So if you're a member there, you have access to all the streams I've ever done. And we're also starting to splice those streams up into specific questions that are searchable. And so there'll be more on that. And yeah, so I think what I'm going to be doing with the streams is I'm going to bring back a From the Field members stream that will just happen once a month. And I will post a video about it at fromthefield.tv, and then you put your questions in there, and we do it as we have done. But it will be in Zoom, and so it'll be recorded in Zoom, and then members can chime in the Zoom call. And then for streams on just in the public, I'm going to, I don't want to commit to doing regular streams again. I'm going to just kind of do them when I feel like it. And the great thing about YouTube or any of these other platforms is that I can do that and you immediately can see it. And so if you follow me on Telegram, I'm getting into deep snow here. I don't think I can walk this way. If you follow me on Telegram, it's SHTF Farmer, or t.me/SHTF Farmer. I might, if I'm going to do a stream, I might announce it there. I'm still looking for the best platform to do them in. And it looks like I might be able to stream to a couple of these platforms at the same time. So I'm looking at platforms like Rumble and Rockfin. Telegram I can stream in, but it is pretty clunky when I was doing it last time. And Odyssey, I think, lets me stream now. So I could do that. So I might be coming back with streams, but not a lot. You know, I'm not the kind of content creator, or I want to be less the kind of content creator that's always churning out videos. I've been doing this, been making videos for a number of years, and I'm not one of these guys that just wants to be on camera all the time, to be honest with you, to be open with you. I like a private life. I don't want my kids in my videos, though my daughter sometimes just shows up in my live streams, and we've been working on that, telling her not to do that, but sometimes I can't help it. So, but I'm really just into developing my homestead project here, and I like making from the field videos. It's a different thing. From the field videos are mostly just focused on the content and specific things. They're informative, you know, and when I built from the field, that was the original goal, and it's become a lot more than I ever imagined, but that was the goal. And so I'm going to continue doing that. But as far as just making videos on YouTube all the time, you know, there's guys out there, there's vloggers out there who make videos every day. They got their family and their kids in there. It's like reality TV. That's not me. Not me at all, actually. In fact, I can't stand that stuff. I can't even watch videos like that. I just don't care what people do in their personal life, and I kind of feel, I don't know, I kind of feel dirty when I see people's vlogs where they're in their house with their kids and their family and they're sharing really personal things. I don't know. I'm not into that, and I don't want to be that. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with creating content. So, you know, going forward, I will do some more live streams again because I do enjoy it, and but they're not going to be frequent. You know, some people stream every day. I think Owen streams every day. I cannot do that. If I streamed every day, my wife would hate me. So I can't do it. And I don't want to do it either, because I like doing them and I get into it and I want to be there for hours. Often, you know, with a stream, sometimes you get it takes an hour to get warmed up, and it even takes like an hour for a lot of people to get in there. And so I like to do it, and I like to do a good job of it, and I have fun with it, and I want to commit, but to do it too often, it's just too much for me, even once a week. So this year, I'm really just focused on building my homestead, and having time with my family and my kids, and crushing the season. And that's what we're going to do. This season, there's going to be a lot of activity on more so on the land side than there was this year. Yes, we've got to build our house, and that's going to be a big undertaking, but I'm already looking like I might have a bigger crew this year, so I think this will go faster than last year. But I'm focused on building our gardens and our food systems this year, so we're planning to do the gardens, all the raised beds, fruit trees, nut trees, strawberry plants, berry bushes, all this kinds of stuff. Be doing more on the irrigation, though the base core of our irrigation's all done, all the main lines, but doing more stuff on that. And we'll be putting in a chicken run, actually. So that's all stuff you can look forward to it from the field. And I'll have some updates along the way here on YouTube. But yeah, that's kind of where things are at. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about what's going on right now in the macro, and just kind of share with you some of my thoughts and the way I feel about things, and kind of the big picture. So, we got these big trucker rallies going all over Canada. The one in Ottawa is massive. There is, the mainstream media is a complete lie. You cannot trust them, and I think that's probably that's not a controversial thing to say to people who have watched my videos, at least in the last couple of years when I kind of came out as a truther. They're just lying completely. They're just making up so much stuff like this whole... They tried to spin this story, the desecration of the Terry Fox statue. They literally put a Canadian flag on it, a hat, and a sign. And it's not vandalized in any way. I'd seen, dozens of Black Lives Matter and Antifa protests where they literally desecrate statues and they tear them down or paint them or knock off the head. Like, nothing like that. So the whole media is just lying about everything. And so you can't trust any of them. There's a lot of... really, really good live streams going on in Ottawa. If you want to follow what's going on, just search, even on YouTube, live streams of Ottawa. There's a guy named Ottawa Walks that I watch. I check in with him, and he just walks around with the camera like this and just barely says anything. He just shows what's going on, and it's great. There's another guy, Canadian guy, I think he might be from Saskatchewan or something, Tire Roaster's Garage. He's hilarious. He's been posting some great videos. But what's going on there is quite amazing, and I've never really been that excited about protest movements. The last time I got excited about one was Occupy Wall Street, and I really was only excited about it when they were marching on the Federal Reserve. When it turned into us against the 1%, it just became bullshit, because the 1%, I'm probably in the 1% as far as, it's actually, if you live in North America, and you're a relatively successful entrepreneur, which there are a lot of. It's not an extreme minority, but you're probably in the 1%. So that's all just a bunch of BS. But I lost interest in that movement when it turned to that, because that was a clear example that it got co-opted. And that could potentially happen with what's going on with the truckers here. Some say that it already might have in some degree. The whole thing with their funding there's some questions about that, some questions about some of the people involved, but the people down there, these truckers, these working people, like I said in my stream, Canadians are tough, and I've traveled around the world, and there's tough people everywhere, but there's something particularly tough about people who live in cold climates. If you're up in northern Alberta and you're a pipeline fitter, a pipe fitter, and you're working in minus 40, you are tough. And I know some people got offended when I said this in my live stream. Some Australians just say, yeah, try working in plus 40. I know, I've worked in that kind of weather too. It's tough, but you won't die in minutes, okay? There's quite a bit of a difference. If you are a Canadian working in minus 40, you can literally die in minutes to exposure. In hot climates, you can at least get to shelter. And you're not just going to die. If you're in cold and you get wet and you're stuck out in the bush, you can die very, very quickly. So Canadians are tough. And that's why I think ultimately this whole thing with the truckers there's something to it. Because these are tough people, and they're people that have been pushed to the brink, and they're sick of all this insanity with all these mandates that don't make any logical sense. All you have to do is ask a few questions. I'm not going to do it here because you guys all know what I'm talking about, and doing this stuff in this YouTube video will probably get it deleted. And so you don't have to ask a lot of questions to see the complete obvious logical inconsistencies with everything in this narrative going on right now. And these truckers have had enough, because a lot of these people have had to deal with this bullshit, and they're tired of it. And a lot of them don't know what else to do. So they're doing they're doing something, okay? And I don't need to go over everything that I did in that like I did in that 3.5 hour live stream with Owen. But you guys can go watch that. It's up on BitChute. Go check it out, because it's off YouTube now, but it's on BitChute. And it's, of course, on From the Field. But so I don't need to go all over that again. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what I hope can happen. And maybe I'm putting this out there to seed it into the consciousness, the collective consciousness of some people out there, maybe that are taking part in these rallies. in that right now the message from the truckers in Ottawa and all around the world, they're doing this in Victoria this coming week, and they're going to stay until the mandates are lifted, which is great. That should happen everywhere. But let's not get too caught up in the politics of it. Let's not get caught up in the party politics. You're going to see over the next week, because these truckers are not going anywhere, which is awesome. But you're going to see more politicians pander to it. And I think in Canada here, the Conservatives, they just got rid of Erin O'Toole, who was a total tool. They are all tools. But you're going to see them pander to it because they're going to try to ride it for political expediency, which is what every politician does, because politics is downstream from culture, as Andrew Breitbart once said. But it's true. And that's what they're going to do. And what people need to be aware of is that even though some of these politicians, call them these conservative politicians who want to do that, and there's no question that there are some good politicians, right? At least they have good intentions. And some of these politicians will try to follow this movement and get some political steam, and then maybe we'll see they'll drop the mandates, and then maybe we'll see there'll be some kind of election, or next election the Conservatives will come back with a majority government or whatever. That doesn't matter, and this is why. In Canadian politics, every single political party has voted for the Build Back Better agenda, which is the Great Reset, the World Economic Forum, the big technocratic takeover. They've all voted for it. I don't think the PPC hasn't, but I'm sorry to say they're essentially irrelevant in the political world. And so that's the thing that the truckers and all these people doing this need to not lose sight of, that, and need to bring that to light, is that not only should they be demanding that all the mandates are dropped, of course, but they should also be vocally exposing the Build Back Better agenda. All this stuff, the Build Back Better agenda, the cyber pandemic, the cyber polygon. Focus on the UN stuff that's obvious, the Great Reset. That's what this is about. The Great Reset and all that stuff is not a conspiracy, and it's not a conspiracy theory. It's fully out in the open. It just seems like a conspiracy to normies who don't pay attention, because they're not paying attention and they don't listen to anything that the mainstream media tells them to. Don't look here, right? Don't look up. And so the mainstream media likes to label that as a conspiracy theory, but it's not. The Great Reset and the Build Back Better agenda, it's all connected to the SDG goals, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are all a massive push for a technocratic authoritarian takeover. And none of this is controversial. If you think it's controversial, you just haven't done your homework. You haven't looked at it. And you're just going, oh, Anderson Cooper told me that it's a conspiracy. CBC told me it's a conspiracy. It's not. It's out in the open. It's just that people aren't paying attention. So these assholes get away with it. And that's what needs to be exposed. Is the Build Back Better agenda, the Great Reset, needs to be exposed for what it is. That's not necessarily even going to stop it, but if we bring it to light and if this becomes common parlance and you get it out into the cultural zeitgeist, if you will, that's what slows this stuff down. Just like how right now, in Canada, a lot of the politicians are saying that they're going to be dropping these Rona restrictions, because they can only push so far. And government and tyranny always moves 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. They push it to the max to see how you react, and then they readjust, and then they step back. And then they push it again. It's the old slow boiling frog in water, but it all comes down to the Hegelian dialectic, the problem, reaction, solution. This is how they do these things. So they're going to push this stuff. And I think the truckers will be successful. I think we will see the mandates dropped. But that is not victory. That is not victory. Victory, there's going to be many stages of victory. This is a war. We are at a new kind of war. It's an information war, it's a cultural war, it's a spiritual war, it's an economic war. It's everything except tactile war. Tactile wars don't work like they used to, because they used to just take you to war right away. If the people were starting to rise up, that would be the best distraction, is just take you to war. That's how they used to do it, but they can't do that so much. They're trying to do it with this Ukraine thing. I don't think it's going to be successful. People don't want war. They're sick of it. And so the sort of subversive psychological, ideological agents, guys like people like Yuri Bezmenov talked about, the way they function is through subversion. And then they subvert everything. It's like JFK said in his seminal speech before he got taken out. Talked about how the New World Order is essentially a subversive machine that uses secrecy and shadow techniques to control the world. And come on, is that not painfully obvious to everybody who's just slightly paying attention now? It should be, because that's how it is. And the last 2 years have made that more obvious than ever, which is a good thing. The downside is that, for the people, when the tyrant makes his move, he has to kind of take off his mask and expose himself, because, okay, yeah, now we're tyrants, so now we're exposed, and hopefully not too many people push back. But people do push back, and that's what's happening right now. But they're going to keep pushing it, because if they don't push it, because now that the mask of tyranny is exposed, if these people that are pushing this, the big head honchos, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group, the New World Order stuff, the Milner Group, if you will, if you're familiar with the work of Carol Quigley, Tragedy and Hope, or the Anglo-American Empire, these people have been exposed, and so now that they've been exposed, there's no turning back for them, in my opinion, because if they don't go all the way to achieve their Agenda 2030. It was Agenda 21, and we passed 21, and so they updated it for 2030, and that's to achieve all these 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which sound really nice and fluffy when you just read the first line, but if you actually go in and read all of it, it's all about a complete authoritarian, technocratic takeover. It's all about stakeholder capitalism, which is essentially just a fancy word for crony capitalism, which is what we already have, but they want it even more, where only the big corporations and the big state can dictate about everything controlling your life. And the Sustainable Development Goals are just a big sham for a massive banker and technocratic takeover, which is how things have been for a long time. The technocratic agenda is relatively recent, at least in the last 100 years, but central bankers running the world is nothing new. And so this is what needs to be exposed. And I'm not even saying that if that gets exposed, that's the be end all. It's not. This is a long battle. This is, like I said, it's economic, it's information, it's psychological, and ultimately it's spiritual. And that's probably where we're going to be in it for the long haul, is on the spiritual front. Because humanity has been demoralized through cultural programming for so long. The 60s and modern hedonism and the breakdown of the traditional family and family values, and just this madness that we're living in now, where a man is a woman and men can have babies, and there's 76 genders, and you're evil for wanting to have children, and everything is so backwards and insane that it's going to take a long time to undo that. The cultural part of this is really the deepest rooted, in my opinion, and that's where the long game is going to be. But if we can, hopefully, as many of us as possible, if we can push back, expose the Great Reset, expose the Build Back Better Sustainable Development scam, get ourselves off grid, get ourselves autonomous in our own communities, where we can weather the storm, because these bankers are going to go all the way. They're going to go all the way. Like I said, they've been exposed. So if they don't go all the way, it's the gallows for them. And they know this. They know that with the horrible things that they've been doing with this big medical experiment on people, there's going to be a lot of angry mothers and fathers. A lot of angry people when this really gets exposed. And it is getting exposed. It's all coming out. So they have to go all the way. And again, that means that you can't necessarily win. But if it's a war of attrition, where basically we get cut off, where, controlled breakdowns of the supply chain. We've already been seeing this. So there's evidence for this too. These people don't even hide this stuff anymore. That you need to survive. You need to survive and thrive, hopefully. So you need to focus on 4 things. And I've said this a lot over the years: food, water, energy, and shelter. Those are primary. Of course, there's all kinds of other things on top of that. But those things, if you can get yourself to a point where you've got those covered, so you've got a secure water source that can't be tampered with, and that's why living in the city is a huge risk. You've got a power system that you can, even if it's just a generator, so that you can, if you had a tidy tank of fuel, you could survive for a number of months or something. So your water, your energy, your shelter, your home is functionable at a bare level, where you can, if let's say you don't even have power, you can at least burn wood. And wood's available, if you live in the country, it's everywhere. And of course your food, which is certainly my wheelhouse. But the more that you can have security in all those things, the more likely it's going to be that you can get through the next phase that's coming. And I believe the next phase that's coming is that they're going to start controlling, doing more brownouts, pushing like we saw in Texas last year. You're going to see pushing people to the brink more, because the main narrative is falling apart. There's so many people that are over it. There's people that are even went as far as getting their booster, their third shot, and they're going, this is insane. Why am I still I did everything you told me to, and I'm still locked down. Like, look at our phony prime minister, who's just he's just a figurehead and doesn't mean anything. People put too much on him. I'll talk about that in a minute too. The guy got 3 injections and still tested positive. Like, come on, are you kidding me? How is that not just some major form of gaslighting? Is that, like, how can anybody listen to that and not go, wait a second? Like, the thing is, when you pull the lens back with this whole thing, that, in my opinion, is totally intentional. The gaslighting is intentional because the gaslighting is a form of giving you notice. And they're giving you notice because the cronies that control this show do follow the maxims of equity in law. And that's how they avoid a lot of sort of karmic repercussions, in my opinion. This is something that I've kind of philosophized with for a long time. I can't necessarily prove it, but bear with me. And, it's just an idea that I have, and I could be wrong on it. I'd be willing to hear somebody else's take, but I think that they do follow the maxims of equity. It's how they avoid a lot of really bad things. It's like, the people that commit the war crimes never really pulled the trigger. Some of them did. Castro did. Castro and Che, those guys murdered on their own hands, on the record, like thousands of people. They're brutal people. But most of the cronies around the world don't do anything because they follow some of the maxims of equity, which are... One, which is the main one here, is equity does not aid a volunteer. You read the maxims of equity; these go way back to the early Roman Empire. They're some of the foundation of Roman civil law. It is the foundation of Roman civil law, and they follow these things. And so, equity doesn't aid a volunteer, meaning that if you did it to yourself, you're liable, you're responsible, not them. You took all that stuff that the media told you, hey, that's on you, man. We gave you disclosure. We told you that the stuff wasn't working. We told you that the mandates were going to keep going. We told you that this is never going to end, but you still did it. And so you're responsible. And so, some people like to say what we're going through right now is a mass genocide. It's not. It's a mass suicide. It's not a mass genocide. Things like happened in Rwanda were a genocide. Things like happened in the Soviet Union where, massive executions, things like that. Those are genocides. This is a suicide. This is a mass suicide. People are literally killing themselves. And the thing is that's crazy about that, when you stop to think about it for a second, you pull the lens back even further, is that's actually nothing new. Western society has been killing itself for a long time. And the cronies and the Milner group and these groups, they've been trying to depopulate the Western world for a very long time, and they have been successful. Look at the food that we eat. Look at the health habits that most people have. Look at the fact that everybody that's dying right now of the illness that's going around, apparently, allegedly that's going around, they're all morbidly obese and have, one or two comorbidities. So humanity has been killing itself for a long time. Humanity has also been isolated for a long time. You listen to the thesis about this idea of mass formation, which I do believe is really happening. Part of that psychosis includes when masses of people in society just feel lonely and disconnected. Well, that's happened. That's been exacerbated over the last 2 years. There's no question about it. But prior to that, people were already that way. People have been living on their devices. I'm guilty of it myself sometimes. I have to check myself, get off my phone, or my wife has to smack me and tell me to get off my phone. People are they're so already disconnected from one another, and living in these big cities, all the lockdowns and all this stuff, it just expedited what was already there. So what I was going to say about Trudeau too is that, you look at a lot of what's going on with the trucker rallies and you see these F Trudeau signs, and that's well and good as far as I'm concerned. It's funny. However, he's not the enemy. To focus on him is to go for one of the oldest bait and switch tricks in the book. Because the real people who control the show operate from the shadows. Like, come on. This is not controversial. Do you think if Justin Trudeau resigns that's going to do anything? His top crony, or behind him, is Christy Freeland. She is an absolute George Soros puppet on the record. There's dozens of photos of them together. She thanks him in all kinds of speeches and talks about how great he is. And he was her mentor, basically. So she's actually the one. She's basically Trudeau's handler, if you will. And so if Trudeau goes, it makes no difference. In fact, if a lot of these people who are just chanting that F Trudeau, they're going to be appeased in a way if he goes, and he probably will go. How can a guy who's sitting there accusing the average working Canadian of being misogynist and racist, how can a guy who has done so much blackface that it is well known that he has he's done so much blackface, Trudeau, that he's got a kit that's on draw that he's ready to use at any given time. He has been caught doing blackface so many times that the virtue signaling that he talks about with racism and all this is so phony and so fake, and everyone can see it. That, he's probably going to resign. He's not going to be able to keep the charade up any longer. The next charade will just be to keep you distracted with little breadcrumbs of politics that appease the peasantry for a little while. Oh, Trudeau resigns. Oh, yeah, we won. It's no. Stay on the target. Expose the Great Reset, the Build Back Better agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals, expose the UN, the WHO, and the whole infrastructure behind this technocratic takeover. Don't lose sight of that. Yes, if the mandates get dropped, that's a win in the short term. There's no question about it. I would love to go into towns and not have anybody wearing masks, or at least not have the obligation to wear a mask, though I don't. But I'd like that to be gone. That would be good. I would love for my children to walk down the street of a town, like that we live close to a little town, and them not see other kids in masks. I would really like that. At least not a majority of kids wearing masks. So if they can end the mandates, that's fantastic. That's a good win. But it's not. That's a battle. That's not the war. Next, take down the Build Back Better. Expose the Build Back Better. It'll be taken down by it being exposed, at least in the short term. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, we all have to rebuild everything. We have to create a new world. And we're creators. We're born to do this. We chose to be here at this time to do this. This is the greatest opportunity we've ever seen, is to create a new world that isn't based on this death cult. We need to create a world that's equitable for everybody, not just a tiny elite few who print all the money and control all the technology. Because there's so much abundance in this world. There's no reason why there's people starving to death. There's no reason why we need to have these endless wars and massive inequality. None of that has to happen. And I'm not talking about some socialist utopia. I'm just talking about what's fair. What's fair for people. The justice system is completely corrupt. We live in an authoritarian, technocratic, corporate fascist system, which is a kleptocracy, that the rich, the absolute rich, can just cheat and steal and do whatever they want, because if you're super rich, you can buy off judges. Look at the Epstein thing, which is just scratching the surface of how brutal all the sex trafficking stuff is, but just look at how there's no justice for this. How come Hillary Clinton is in prison when it's on the record that she's done so much corrupt behavior? On the record, but she's not. It's because the entire system at its core is corrupt. And this is the same all over the world. And people in the United States, it's the same thing. You don't have a constitution. You lost your constitution in 1871 under the Organic Act. The U.S. is the de facto corporate nation. Same in Canada, same in pretty much all the countries of the world. Once we end the mandates, we push back the Build Back Better agenda, or we at least expose it. We create self-autonomous communities where we can be reliant in our communities, where we have a shorter supply chain. We can live more locally. Then it's going to do the long work of undoing the cultural programming that has been happening for really hundreds of years and creating a system that's truly equitable for everybody. So that's my rant. I'm going to keep this up on YouTube because I don't think it will get censored. I want to just say, if you guys want to see more of my videos on the Homestead, head over to fromthefield.tv. And you can sign up for 7 days for free now. So you can just sign up, check it out, no obligation. If you don't like it, no hard feelings. And if you want to stick around, stick around. But that's where I post everything. And these days, I'm actually quite optimistic about things. I feel like there's a real tide turning. I feel this is the Great Awakening. And let's not lose sight of things. You know, one thing I want to impart with you before, if I got a little bit more battery life on this camera, is something that came up in the live stream with Owen. Owen and I had a very candid, honest conversation where we both listened to each other. We both came in with different opinions, and we both came out seeing each other's sides better. And that came about because we were not stuck in a binary or monoculture thinking. So many people, when they look around at what's going on, it's either this or that, which is the binary. Or there's only one way to do things. There's only one way to win this. There's many ways to win this. There's infinite possibilities. There's infinite ideas. And don't get hung up in this whole thing of getting stuck in a binary or getting in this monoculture of the mind. One thing I've learned from reading the white papers of the elite for as long as I have is that anytime you see that has their hands written all over it. They want to control the narrative. In Carol Quigley's Tragedy and Hope, he talks about how the Milner Group go into all the institutions to basically gatekeep the narrative. You can only go this far to this side and only go so far to this side. That's how they kind of create this binary. So the conversation only stays within this one thing, or it's this or the other. And then they always push for centralization, right? That's the monoculture. Anytime you see monoculture, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in industry, whether it's in finance, whether it's in the mind, because the monoculture of the mind is ultimately one of the greatest poisons that we have, because you just have to look at nature. Nature is infinitely diverse, and nature is a reflection of God, the Creator, which has infinite possibilities and endless abundance. And that's where we need to go. That's where people need to get their heads around, get connected to God, get connected to nature, see the infinite possibility and abundance that exists in nature, and recognize that everything that comes from the New World Order is the opposite. It's centralized. It's binary. It is limited. It's scarce, right? This whole idea of scarcity is perpetuated by the elites because they want to control everything. So we have a scarcity of... We know that the technology exists to have infinite energy, 0 point energy. That technology exists. We know it. It's been bought off and controlled because the people who control the energy want to rack it. This is the same old story. But I'll leave it there for now. That was going on 42 minutes. So I'll keep this up on YouTube. I'll also put this on BitChute and Odyssey, just in case for some reason on YouTube it does come down. It'll also be up at FromTheField.tv. So I'll leave it with you there, folks. And we'll see you in the next video.